The system is not set up for us to win. We don't even know the game we're playing. Look, if you're in my direct circle, you've heard me talk about this a ton. It's something I'm very passionate about. Why do you think we're not taught about money in school? Why do you think most of us don't know how inflation works? How come we don't understand why asset prices rise? If you look around right now, this whole financial crash 2020, you'll see like $2 trillion being pumped into circulation. What does that mean? It's a fascinating world. And I'm not claiming to be an expert. I just want to get into what's worked for me, how I've been able to design my own life, and some things you should be aware of, so hopefully you can design yours too. Let's jump right into it.
We are going into a global recession. We're in an economic downturn.
The world is now in recession.
Recession in the next quarter or two.
So we'll start with this question. If we have the ability to pump $2 trillion into circulation out of thin air, why do we pay taxes in the first place? They're just printing the money anyways. Second question, why is it that Warren Buffett, one of the top 5 richest people in the world, pays a lower tax rate than his secretary? Let's start with those two. All right, so let's jump to one of my favorite quotes, Nassim Taleb. I believe it's in Anti-Fragile. The 3 most addicting things in this world: heroin, a carbohydrate, and a monthly salary. A monthly salary? Look, I've salaried myself my entire life. It is one day my intention to no longer be dependent on a salary. Why? Let's circle back to that Warren Buffett point, right? His secretary, she could be making $150K, $200K a year. She could be making good money, and he's paying a lower tax rate. I think it's really important to understand you don't get rich off paying taxes. So you get a high salary, you're paying 40% taxes on that, right? You invest in a business, you sell it, you're paying capital gains, 15%. You invest in real estate, you're getting various write-offs. I mean, shit, I think Trump lost so much money, they had to pay him, right? Like, that's how the system works. You're not getting rich off earning more at work. So this whole chasing a higher salary, all it does is rise with your level of living. You continue on the same treadmill, never finding independence, never finding financial freedom, and continuing to play within the game. You could be making $500,000 a year, you could be making $1 million salary, and the chances are that your expenses are gonna rise with that, and you're gonna carry the same stress, you're gonna carry the same burdens, and you're never going to be free. These guys don't think like the general public, and we should be thinking like them because we're operating in their game. We need to understand the same rules. It just is what it is. I'm not saying it's fair, I'm not saying it's right, but the more we understand, the more we can use it to our advantage. This is financial intelligence, at least in my world. Look, I will say entrepreneurial fire drives everything. It drives growth, it drives economic progress, right? I'm all for that. Not to take anything away from like Jeff Bezos. I mean, he's brilliant. Amazon pays no taxes. What does he do? Every year he's starting new businesses and showing crazy losses with those businesses. But the intention of those businesses is to contribute to economic gain, right? Like one of those businesses that lost all this money was AWS. Eventually it's out of this world successful. Like that kind of stuff. I mean, obviously he understands the system. So I'm not saying all of this is just inherently bad. I'm just trying to bring attention to it so you can operate accordingly and design your own life. I think it's really important to drill down on money. Cash rules everything around us, and yet none of us understand how it actually works. This is where I think it's crazy, like these aren't the things we're taught in school. But anyways, fiat currency. What is it? How does it work? What is inflation? These are a couple things I need to touch on really quick. Inflation is the coldest tax. And I want you to think about it like this. When our parents bought a can of Coke, 20, 30 years ago, whatever it might have been, that was like 10 cents, maybe a quarter, depending on when you were born. That's like $1.25 for us now. Even in our own lifetime, mine at least, like when I used to want to buy a pair of Jordans, they were $100, maybe $125. Those are $200 now, coming out brand new retail. That's how inflation works. It's a hidden tax, and it creates this false sense of understanding for the economic value of what a dollar bill actually holds. Our dollars lose about 3% every year. So if you have 100 grand sitting in a bank account, that purchasing power the next year will be $97,000. At this rate, the way they're printing money, inflation is going to continue to accelerate. It is a hidden tax designed to rob you of your wealth. Understand that. It's very important. So hear me out. Like, why do things work this way? Like, how is this system designed? Well, a lot of it can be traced back to the Federal Reserve. And we don't need to fully dive into what exactly the Federal Reserve is, because that could be like 10 videos. It's madness. I recommend the Jekyll on Creature Island to really get into that. But it's a privately owned entity held by the banks that basically sets monetary policy. So during this coronavirus situation, they're the ones deciding to pump trillions of dollars into circulation. Think about that for a second, okay? Jeff Bezos, the richest man on the earth. He's worth what, 100 billion? You need to multiply that times 10 to get $1 trillion and then double it. So that's $2 trillion. They just put that into the system. What does that do for you? Does that create more economic value? No. It robs your dollars of their purchasing power at a faster rate. So my intention here is to get you thinking about money differently, because right now it's a control system designed to chase these paper things without any intrinsic value other than trust in this system, and the system is faltering, the system is failing, and the system is not set up for you to win. What's happening right now is the Fed is obsessed with keeping this thing going, because we're not that far away from like total economic freeze up and total economic crash. Isn't it crazy? They always tell you to keep like 6 months safety net, but what, these big companies, these airlines couldn't even survive a week or two without a freaking bailout? That's insanity. And what you're seeing right now is an event that wasn't predictable, threw a whole wrench in the system, and what are they doing to solve it? Printing. It's crazy. Look, so when all that money gets pumped into circulation, what does it do? It doesn't provide any value to the people on the bottom. It doesn't provide any value to the people in the middle. What it ultimately does is drive asset prices up. That's where you're gonna see the spike of this. You're gonna see the stock market, once things calm down, just go woo. And the new dollar amounts associated with that aren't new economic creation. They're the result of trillions of dollars going straight into the pockets of the mega rich. That's how it works. It really is a crazy system, isn't it? You've got this group of private bankers that, under the influence of heavy corporate powers, pretty much determine the value of your money in any given year, right? They're able to totally erode the value of the dollar and rob you blind. I refer to it as crazy, but let's stop doing that. Let's just refer to it as it is what it is. The situation is what it is, and you need to operate accordingly. My hope, I've always been big on this idea of pursuing personal liberty. So my hope is I can give you a couple things to take away that ultimately you'll be able to implement to your own life and find what it is that you're looking for. Step one, find what it is you're looking for. For me, it was always freedom, right? I just wanted freedom. I would rather die than do the 9-to-5 thing and report to someone. And that might sound harsh, that might sound crazy. And I was always willing to do it for a time, but I'm just saying, if that was my life, like if I had to do that till I was 65, I'd rather put a bullet in my head. Like, that's on everything. Because I want a life worth living. Number 2, don't let debt overtake your life. Use debt strategically. Live within your means. And that's counterintuitive to what a lot of, self-help, wealth builders say. They say extend, utilize debt to the max. Debt robs you of your freedom. Use it strategically. When I was building Genius, I used credit, and I was always, able to stretch it a little bit, but I was always very cautious that I was always all over my cash flow. Things were personally guaranteed by me, and that'll keep you up at night, right? So I took a calculated risk for an extended period of time, but ultimately the plan wasn't to get more into debt. The plan wasn't to go leverage that financial growth and bring on more on top of my head. That keeps you on the treadmill. So be smart about debt. Don't let it overtake your life. All right, and number 3, this goes into full mindset shift. This Keynesian system is set up to trigger short-term habits, spending. You need to pivot all of your thinking and take the long view. Take a long-term mentality, think for tomorrow. Where can you put these dollars to the point they're gonna appreciate, build wealth, and ultimately freedom? That's what it's all about. That's where my whole mindset has shifted. It influences my spending patterns, it influences my investments, and that is what I want you to take away from this video. Find freedom. Pursue self-liberty.